Have you ever had a problem that keeps circling you back to the same situation? And no matter what you do, you're just stuck in that spiral? Well, I think CBT might have the answer. Hey guys, this is Nevern, shrinking out loud. You see what I did there? It's because I'm a shrink. So I just made a big promise, so let's dive right in there. What is CBT and what's the hidden gem that you could use at home? So CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is a type of psychotherapy that therapists use on their patients. Cognitive part just refers to a focus on thoughts, and the behavioral part just refers to a focus on action. So CBT might actually be quite different to what you think of when you think of therapy. I want you to think of the most common situation or question that you might encounter with a therapist. How does that make you feel? CBT is quite different in that regard because of its focus on thoughts and behaviors and trying to change those to be able to manifest different emotions. Another scenario you might think of: what's your relationship with your mother or father like? So while the past is important, CBT focuses on the here and now. It says that sometimes we fail to solve our problems because we fixate on the origin. Why is fixating on the origin a problem? Well, sometimes it leads to blame shifting and an endless spiral of, it's your fault, no, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's definitely your fault. And another problem with it is that sometimes we can't undo or change the past. So now for the secret formula that you've all been waiting for. I don't know how to edit drum rolls in yet. So one thing before we get into it. If you're enjoying this video so far, please hit that like button and subscribe, or else the video just stops. Like your phone's gonna detonate and stuff. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, one of the most important concepts in CBT that you could use is what's called maintenance processes. So remember in CBT I said the focus is on the here and now? Well, how that works is that a CBT therapist might ask you to list some of the symptoms that you're struggling with. They'll ask you for cognitive symptoms, so what you're thinking, behaviors, how you're acting, emotions and affects, what you're feeling and expressing, and then also physiological symptoms, so what's going on in your body. Most of the time what they then do is they look for loops within these symptoms. How is this symptom leading to this? How is that symptom leading to that? And they try and identify the spiral that you've got yourself stuck in. These are called maintenance processes because they keep your problem going. And in CBT, the aim is to attack those head on. Boom. So now that might sound quite abstract, so I'm going to give you 9 examples from Westbrook's book on cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a story in the book about a man who was waving and constantly just standing on the street and waving, and someone came by and asked him, why are you constantly waving? And he said, it's to keep the dragons away. And the guy said, but I don't see any dragons around here. And he said, yeah, exactly, it's working. That's an example of safety behaviors. You have a fear that something might happen. You feel fear. Now that emotional symptom might lead to behavior which causes you to try and avoid that. Okay, in the case of the dragon man, it's waving. Now, what happens then is that behavior then causes you not to see that your thoughts might be wrong or that you might actually be safe. So then you feel afraid again, and then the cycle continues. In the case of the dragon man, he never got to see that there's a clear blue sky. So in this loop, you might feel quite low. And now this low emotional symptom might cause you to evaluate activities in a negative light. I don't want to do that. That's not fun. So what happens? Your behavior is then a lack of activity. And because of that lack of activity, you don't get the rewards from those activities that most people get when they engage in them. And guess what happens? You start to feel even lower. So with this loop, you might start to feel symptoms in your body. My throat feels a bit funny, or my heart is beating quite fast. This is immediately followed by some sort of cognitive symptom where you think, oh, could I be ill? Could I be dying? What's going on here? And then that might lead to more fear, and it might lead to your symptoms getting even worse. And then you just get stuck in a snowball effect. This one links to the previous one quite nicely. But whereas with catastrophic misinterpretation, you're actually feeling some sensation, some heartbeat or whatever it is, with hypervigilance, you're actually going and looking for something that might not be there. So this loop might start with the fear that something might be there, which will then lead to the behavior of you scanning and you looking and checking what's going on. This behavior can sometimes then lead to physiological symptoms in your body that you actually produce, which then confirms your initial fear, and the cycle continues. Think about when someone said they were itchy, or you thought, I might be itchy, and then you start to suddenly feel all these itches and all these things on your body. Sometimes you can actually create the sensations or misinterpret the sensations that are there on your body. So imagine there's someone you don't like, and you go to a party and you see them and you think, I don't like you. And then you see the way they're behaving and you're like, that's why I don't like you. You know, there's a lot more to an interaction like that could be going on under the surface. So sometimes you can have a feeling of not liking someone and not knowing why. And sometimes that feeling can lead to a behavioral symptom where we react to that person, or we act to that person in maybe a hostile way, or maybe a way that makes them feel like we're being hostile. What happens then is that they might start to behave in a hostile manner, and then that would lead to a symptom of you thinking about them and further confirming the idea that they're the problem. So what ends up happening is you guys never like each other. This can also happen in social situations. You might feel quite anxious being in a social situation, which might then lead to behaviors that causes you to close off and causes you to not be as interactive with other people. That can then be interpreted cognitively as rejection, which then further confirms that there was some threat in this situation. So this occurs when you need to complete some task, especially in front of other people. You might start with a worry about your performance. Now that worry will lead to some symptoms in your body that's felt as anxiety. And then those symptoms can cause you to negatively evaluate yourself. Why am I nervous? Oh, I'm such an idiot. Which then interferes with how well you perform. And then your negative beliefs about yourself are confirmed. The fear of fear just describes a process where you might start by fearing about something specific happening. But sometimes that can lead to you feeling anxious, feeling fearful. It might then lead to thoughts that I cannot cope with this fear, which might then lead to you fearing the fear itself, and eventually you're just stuck in this vague space of feeling afraid and not even knowing why. It's quite difficult to treat in therapy, but once you're aware of this process, it might actually help spiral you back down to what's actually going on here. So, getting stuck in a spiral of perfectionism often starts with a negative view of oneself. Maybe I'm not good enough, or I need to try better. That leads to you setting really high expectations for yourself, expectations you're not going to meet. Naturally, your behavior will be failing at those expectations. And once you fail, guess what? It's confirmed. You're not as good as you think you are. And so the cycle continues of you setting high expectations, failing to meet them, and feeling unworthy. So I think this is one that we can all sometimes get stuck in. So you might be struggling with a problem, and your short-term solution might be to have a drink or to do whatever that only helps in the short term. But sometimes you can get stuck in a loop where the proposed solution also becomes the problem that you're trying to solve. In this case, the same thing is punishing you and rewarding you, and that's a vicious cycle. So now that I've given you all these problems, what's the solution? Well, just being aware of these processes can really help. So I would recommend you take out a piece of paper and you start writing down these symptoms. What thought leads to what emotion, leads to what behavior, leads to what bodily symptom. Having that on paper will allow you to see what point of intervention will be best for you. What's the weakest link in this loop? And lastly, just remember that these are just examples. You could have your own processes, so get that paper out and get creative. If you found this of any value, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, do things. This has been Nevern, intern clinical psychologist, shrinking out loud.